a foreign Star Works production.
Hello there. Do you like music and bourbon? Well, you came to the right place. Welcome to the Bourbon Groove. And that's a Jingle Bell Groove. Merry Groovemas, everybody, and welcome to our special Christmas episode of The Bourbon Groove. Not only is it our Christmas or holiday episode, if you will, it's also our 150th pod. Say what?
What?
This might be a thing, so we're going to make it a thing accordingly. I'm your host, Tyler, and thank you for joining us on this holly jolly podcast where we will be covering an artist that we did not do enough justice for the first time around, which means that this special Christmas episode is actually also a remix. So, if I just blew off your jingle bells, let me explain. What does calling the show a remix mean, right? It means basically we go back into the archives of the Bourbon on Wax or the Bourbon Note Tasting Archive and sometimes even the Bourbon Groove archives to look back to see where we could do better, and we basically redo the episode, but like better, you know? Think Dune. Think Not Tonight remix by Lil' Kim featuring Missy Elliott, DeBrat, Angie, and Left Eye. That's probably the best example I can give you. And I couldn't think of a more fitting remix than this expression and definitely this artist. Before we get into all of that, I'm telling you what's going on. So let's keep it reals. Last week's episode was awesome. I loved doing that. That was the very first time we ever did an episode with zero things planned whatsoever. I mean, I think we've done like Sunday Slosh in the past like that.
A gulpy.
Sorry, I'm also drinking something. But this was the first time we did a full episode where I just talked, and that lasted an hour, and that was pretty impressive because I was talking to somebody about it today, and I was like, last week's episode was almost an hour. I was taken aback, and she was all like, "You're surprised that you talked for an hour?" And so that was a quiet dig because obviously I talk too much, but it is what it is, as they say. And so we're back at it, doing it again for this very special Christmas episode. If you're expecting a few things here, like you're expecting recommendations, expecting like gift ideas, favorite bourbons or whiskeys that we had this year, that's all been covered in previous episodes. We don't do that tonight.
Record scratch.
Yes, hello, hi. My name is Winston, the resident Bourbon Groove historian. If you're looking for what Tyler just mentioned, turn your ears to episodes 149 and 147 for that information. Back to the show.
Record scratch.
We're talking Christmas. We're talking a special musical artist. We're talking about a special bourbon expression. And, just having a good old time. Because right now, if you're listening to the day that it drops, it's Christmas. So, Merry Christmas, mofo. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas, mofo. It doesn't matter. I still mean it. So there it is. I said it.
Sippy, gulpy.
Okay, so what am I drinking tonight? Well, I've got to explain a few things. One, I was planning on recording this episode a few days earlier, but it doesn't matter to any of you or whatever, but I got sick. Your boy got super sick, actually. How sick? Well, I went to go pick up my son yesterday, or Tuesday, and I was shaking like a leaf, as they say, as I started walking over there. I looked like maybe some detoxed meth head. I don't know what the hell I looked like, but it was very uncomfortable. But after I got rid of those chills, after having a special hot toddy, which I'm having another one tonight, just for funsies, I felt better. And the next day, everything was good. I still had a little bit of headache, but it all worked itself out because, like they say, hot toddies are nature's cure. So what is in this hot toddy? That's a good-ass question. Well, I have a special chai tea here. This is Stash from Stash. This is their Spice Dragon Red Chai. And then what I did was I took the Savannah Bee Company, which is a Savannah, Georgia, honey place.
Called an apiary, fool.
And they have a hot honey, which is aged in or infused with habanero and Scotch bonnet. Sorry, I'm talking like it's whiskey. And it is super spicy. And I mixed that with the chai, and that's already spicy. And then we add a little lemon juice, and then a whole bunch of whiskey. I pulled from my infinity bottle that I have. It's a Jack Daniel's 200 milliliter that has just been collecting all the little pieces left of anything that I haven't finished this year. So it is basically 2024 in a bottle, and that's pretty cool to be mixing that with this. So it definitely opens up the senses, and it definitely makes you feel something again, which is great, because when you're going through depressing times like myself, it feels good to be alive. Yeah, baby.
Oh, dang. It got real.
And if I am sipping, and I said sip, this is the first time we really say sip. I don't try to say sip because that's what kids say. But if I sipped on the microphone, I'm sorry. I mean, I'll probably go back and maybe fix that. I don't know. It depends if I have time. Full disclosure, I probably will have time because we're recording this a little bit earlier than Christmas. Because if I'm recording this on Christmas Eve, then I'm a psychopath. Because one thing, I got plans, you know what I mean? So I'm doing this a little in advance. It's giving me like a week kind of to have a vacation from recording and stuff and all that good nonsense. But that's what's going on for me currently. So yeah, getting over sickness and all that stuff and working through all of that. And it's been interesting because I don't normally get sick, but it hit me, hit some coworkers, it hit the wife, and I'm lucky that the kid hasn't gotten it yet. So hopefully that stays that way because it was pretty intense. Not normally do I feel like I'm going to die. So that was interesting. But anyways, I move on to this Merry Christmas episode. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, sorry. Ho, ho, ho. There we go.
What'd you call me?
I almost messed that up. It's like I don't even know how to Christmas, bro. But anyway, let's get to it. Besides talking about a whole bunch of Christmas stuff, we will also be covering Kacey Musgraves and how her song, Are You Sure, which is her duet with Willie Nelson, sounds and tastes just like Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A123. Yes, we will be attempting to undo a wrong and provide you with a better representation of what the show is and who Kacey Musgraves is and, of course, what Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is. Anyway, but before that, let's set the stage on how this episode originally occurred. So, back when we were known as Bourbon on Wax, right? After episode 3, we decided to do a bonus episode just for the shits and giggles of it all because I felt that we needed 2 episodes that week. I mean, I guess this...
It's Winston here again from the historian of the Bourbon Groove. I just would like to let you know that back in the day, the Bourbon on Wax show liked to do several different bonus episodes just to fill out the days when Tyler was sitting there wondering what he should do with his life. That's what he did.
This all aired originally on October 19th, 2023, or it dropped, as my 5-year-old says. And it was a mess. Saying it dropped. So my kid the other day said, I can't wait for Christmas to be dropped on the world. And I was like, my God, this kid is the best. So, yes, this episode dropped on October 19th, 2023, and it sucked. And I implore you to go back and listen to it and see how bad it was, only if you really want to. I mean, it's only about 9 minutes long, so it's not like too crazy, but it just wasn't that good. And I'm sure about that because the song that we played was the Willie Nelson version of Are You Sure, recorded, say, maybe even before Kacey Musgraves' mom was born. That's how old it was. So let me squeeze this clown nose right here. Waffle, waffle. So what happened there was I was very new to how Spotify allowed music on these here podcasts back when we were also a Spotify exclusive podcast, which allowed us to play music, which was a thing which they have since taken care of. But I was kind of like, when I say that you're allowed to use the music, it's like basically it was an agreement with licensing, so there was no like people coming at me like trying to break my legs over using their music, you know, no Universal Music Group going, yo, bro, you owe me some money. None of that shit. It's all handled on the back end by Spotify, and that was pretty sweet. But all the artists got paid, and I thought you only heard 30 seconds of the song originally, but I found out later that once you're a Spotify member, you hear the entire song. And when I first started, I was not a Spotify member because I was freshly out of my job. I had quit prematurely thinking that we were going to move to New England much quicker than we were. And I had no money, so I wasn't going to pay $10.99 a month for some shit that hardly gives the musician credit anyway. So I was like, fuck that. And we can talk shit now because we're not a Spotify exclusive podcast. Before, I had to keep it a little G because they listened to it. There was one time where they banned our show and I had to like explain to them it's all hyperbole. None of it's real. It was all a joke. And they're like, oh, okay. And they let the episode air. I think that was like our second Sunday Sloshed ever. Yeah, before it was Truth Sauce Sunday. And I was like, hot damn. They tried to ban me, and that was interesting. So, yeah, we're not a Spotify exclusive podcast anymore. If you're listening to it on Spotify, hey, thanks. But if you're listening to anything else, good for you, and I appreciate you. But that's just what happened, with all that stuff. So I got overzealous. Overzealous, probably. Some might say, with radio shows, random playlist shows, and more. Could understand why Spotify stopped the service because they were like, the artist royalties on podcasts have increased 2 trillion% since the show Bourbon on Wax premiered. We gotta stop them. We're gonna go bankrupt. Or something like that. Yes, this is all according to the board member transcript that is easily accessible via the Google, so if you want to look it up and read it yourself, that is exactly what happened 100%. We were in trouble, and we didn't even realize it. So we changed the name to Bourbon Note Tasting, and when we officially lost the music, we changed the show name to the Bourbon Groove. That was a nice little, thing. All right, well, have a good night. Merry Christmas.
Ding, 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 ding.
Joking. So we will not change the name again, regardless of how many PIs Universal Music Group sends to my house. As far as they know, I don't speak English and hate music. Kind of like Miguel's family and Coco, But I've already taken a sleigh ride out in the middle of the sticks with this one, and we need to get back to the point. So, unfortunately, at the time of the episode, I found that the clip of the Kacey Musgraves version of the song was just an instrumental part of said song. So I went ahead and pulled the Willie Nelson version, which was a Willie original, with the help of Buddy Emmons from the 1965 album Willie Country. Yeah, that idea was a flop in my mind, but once I got an understanding of how the music worked, it was too late to go back. But after a year, we've returned to the show and provided quite the remix. Because not only is it a remix, but again, this is our Christmas episode, and we're going to be jingling our bells all over the place as well. But instead of rehashing what we did wrong, we're just going to do right by starting all over again like it never happened. So, let's get into it, shall we? Buckle up. Let me drink this for a second.
A sippy, sippy. Sippy, sippy, gulp.
Now, it coats the throat, but since it's also spicy too, it's like a mixture of like a good and bad idea. Love it. So, here we go. Are you ready, kids? On August 21st, 1988, somebody came early to this world in the small town of Golden, Texas. That person was Kacey Musgraves. Kacey Musgraves is a groundbreaking artist who has reshaped country music with her soulful voice and evocative lyrics. She grew up surrounded by the sounds of traditional country music while nurturing her own creative edge. Musgraves started her musical journey early, learning the mandolin at 8 and writing songs by 9, early signs of her extraordinary talent. And after years of performing at local events and releasing independent projects, her career took off with her 2013 debut album, Same Trailer, Different Park. The album's standout track, Merry Go Round, captured the struggles of small-town life and earned her a Grammy for Best Country Song. From the start, Musgraves set herself apart with her introspective songwriting and fresh perspective on the genre. Her innovative spirit reached new heights with her 2018 album Golden Hour. Blending country, pop, and dreamy production, the album earned widespread acclaim, including the Grammy for Album of the Year. Songs like Slow Burn and Rainbow offered intimate reflections of life, love, and personal growth, drawing listeners in with her heartfelt simplicity. Much like a good whiskey, Musgraves' music is rich, smooth, and full of character. Her songs explore themes of heartbreak, self-acceptance, and joy, making them a perfect pairing for a quiet evening with a drink in hand. Known for her signature style, merging vintage Western influences with contemporary glam, Musgraves also champions inclusivity and authenticity, values deeply woven into her music. From her small-town beginnings in Texas to becoming a global icon, Kacey Musgraves continues to captivate audiences with her artistry and honesty. So grab a glass of whiskey, press play, and let her music transport you to your own golden hour. Huh? Much better than whatever the fuck the first episode was about. Woo!
Sippy, sippy, gulp, gulp.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we can all sit back for a moment and just in awe of that bio that I just did. Like one freaking take. We didn't break anywhere. And it's the toddy here, It ain't no toddy like a West Coast toddy because a West Coast toddy don't stop, you know what I'm saying? Woo!
Preach,
That's
brother.
what I'm talking about. So now let's talk about that bourbon, huh? That put Kacey Musgraves on my mind that fateful night, probably in August or September of 2023. I don't remember what day it was. Probably even earlier because I didn't have a job on August 24th.
Oh
So it
my
must have
gosh,
been
I
in
thought
like
I was gonna
July when I
like
had
this
it.
episode.
Because when I was doing Bourbon on Wax, I was planning ahead. So I had a whole bunch of shows already written out. So more than likely it was like June or July because there was no fucking way I would have bought an Elijah Craig barrel proof without a job. Yes.
Hi, everybody. It's Fact Check Frankie here, back again to clarify a few things. Tyler did just waste your time on that. Sorry. Now back to the show.
So it had to have been earlier than that. So anyway, let's talk about the Elijah Craig. And should I use the same voice or should we use a different one? You know what? I'm going to use my California one because why not? I lived in California for almost 4 years and I know how to talk through my nose, no problem, bro. So let's do it. So the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A123 release is a powerhouse bourbon delivering bold flavors and a warm, lingering finish. Bottled at a robust 120.8 proof,
Surf's
this
up, fool.
uncut and unfiltered expression packs a punch while maintaining balance and depth. See, I don't know what I'm doing right now. It's like a mix of like every accent I've ever had. So let's just talk normal. So on the nose, it offers a rich medley of caramel, toasted oak, vanilla, and a hint of dark fruit. The palate is full-bodied, featuring layers of brown sugar, cinnamon spice, and a touch of nuttiness, complemented by charred oak and subtle chocolate undertones. See, I do much better when I'm doing a voice. So the finish is long and warming, with a gentle spice that fades into a sweet, smoky notes. Yeah, like your sister. This batch captures the essence of Elijah Craig's Barrel Proof series, intense, flavorful, and satisfying, like your brother. It's an excellent choice for bourbon enthusiasts who enjoy higher proof pours with complex character. I have also mentioned this before. I kept at least maybe half an ounce of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof bourbon in the bottle, took some really nice coffee beans from James Coffee Co. and put that inside the bottle and let it sit for, I think it was like 6 weeks maybe, before then turning it into the most robust, delicious coffee I've had in quite some time. And I've had some pretty good damn coffees before. I mean, I used to work for a coffee roaster, and I'm talking like a high-end single estate type coffee roaster, like she knew people. So I'm talking like $150 a bag of coffee type deal, and this thing blew it out of the water. That Elijah Craig, which I didn't mention before, has like a cookie note to it, like a chocolate chip cookie note that really shined on the coffee itself and just really took everything to the next level. I was sad to see this one go when it did, for sure.
I
Like,
think he's about to
even
cry.
after, like, I remember putting in the beans and then seeing, like, the liquid still sitting on the beans. I was like, I could just kind of squeeze the beans and get the whiskey up. But I was like, no, bro. Like, we got to do this. And it almost didn't happen, actually. So the store that I got it at in Chattanooga, well, technically it was Signal Mountain, had 3 different versions of the barrel proof available at the time, and the new cashier grabbed whatever when I asked for it when it was in the case. So I was like, all right, I didn't even know there was a difference. Honestly, I didn't see the different months there. And the whiskey manager wanted to be certain that I was okay with that. I told him flat out, like, dude, I'm not a snob. It's like, I will drink whatever you grabbed. I'm not going to make you go back to the glass case. So whatever you grab, that's what it is. And just happened to be one of the best of the year, according to everyone. I think maybe the last edition of the year might have beat it, but I don't recall or remember or cared to really look it up because it doesn't matter. All I can tell you is the A123 is delicious. And you know me, straight gangster Mac Daddy X, I don't like saying nice things about Heaven Hill products. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago on our camp episode.
Yeah, and it made me uncomfortable.
But it's just not a thing I do. I just feel like there's more, out there that's better, but to be honest, that's all we ever do here, unbiased and whatnot. Every time I've had Elijah Craig, it's been delicious. And I don't remember liking the toasted very much, but I know the wife did, and that's all that matters, right? Because, happy wife, happy life, as they say. But why did I buy the barrel proof if I didn't like the company? Well, simply,
You need to go into therapy, sir.
I didn't have a strong opinion about them back then, so I was just like, why not? Let's try this. And fearing I wouldn't have another opportunity to do so, because these bottles get pricey in the stores, especially in Tennessee, upwards to $200, in fact, in some places, which is a far cry from the SRP of $60 at the time. I think I paid $80 for it, so decent markup, not bending you over and slapping your Bojangles with a stick and stuff.
Ooh, yes, please.
But especially for a 12-year. I mean, come on. I'm not going to say that I miss it. It was extremely good, and it was gone quicker than most. But, I mean, I've certainly had things I perceive as better. And I always say this. I'm like a broken record here on the groove, which makes sense, when I say that Spirits of French Lick and their Lee W. Sinclair is still the best, I think, that when it comes to whiskey. My opinion.
A sip and a gulp.
But also, the Davidson Reserve Tennessee whiskey, the single barrel there, is pretty close to what you get from the Elijah Craig barrel proof, and it's just like $50. But just a little bit more, whiskey flavored than an Elijah Craig. And you're thinking, Davidson Reserve? What? What is he talking about? Like, I don't think they're really widespread. You can buy them online and stuff, but when I was living in Chattanooga, we had single barrels galore. And like I said, it was just $50. And they had the rye, they had the bourbon, and then they had the Tennessee whiskey. The rye would cure cancer. I'm just saying it right now. I'm not a professional. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying, just by my experience, when I drink it, it just burns everything away. It's that strong. And too strong, actually, if you're asking me.
But I'm not.
But their bourbon, I didn't like too much because it tasted more like a graham cracker, and something about it just didn't sit with me. It was like a graham cracker rye bread thing, and I don't like that flavor. But that being said, the Tennessee whiskey is the shit. It is very good. I love it. Their 4-grain, again, not as good because you get that bourbon influence in there with the wheat, and that strange flavor reappears, and it's not that good. And same thing with the Genesis. They have a big old premium expression called Genesis, which is I think $100 a bottle or something like that, and it's to celebrate every year when they released it. And that too has just a little tinge of that bourbon that I don't like. But again, their Tennessee whiskey was easily my number one favorite. I bought 6 or 7 of the single barrels bottles when it was out. Like, I had a nightmare that they had sold out, so I instantly drove in on Sunday morning and picked up another bottle because I was so worried about it. So that's what I'm talking about. That's how good that was. So I mean, I don't feel about that with Elijah Craig. I've never gone afterwards and be like, man, I could go for another barrel proof right now. No, because I know that there's other stuff out there that I prefer. That doesn't mean that I'm right. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people who disagree. They think that Elijah Craig barrel proof is the best whiskey of all time, and good for you. Right on. I'm not even saying shit. But that's my opinion on all that stuff. But it is a delicious, delicious bottle, to say the least, and it is gone now, and I'm sure if you find it anywhere that's sealed, it's probably be in the $500 to $600 range. I don't know. This is all just me speculating. I did no research on that part. And what does this all mean? I mean, it doesn't taste like a dessert. It tastes like whiskey. That's what I was kind of saying with the Davidson Reserve. Whereas, I feel like the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof just tastes like a dessert whiskey.
Sippy, 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 a gulpy.
Which, again, there is nothing wrong with that. I just don't care for it. I like it when it tastes like whiskey. And that, just what it is. And it's not to throw shade at Kentucky bourbon, but I'm trying to appear like a man's man, or a they, or a woman's man. But I don't care for the super sweet stuff. So when I was drinking this bottle of Elijah Craig, I was pleasantly surprised, both from the taste of the bourbon and the song that popped into my head, which is a bonus track off of Kacey Musgraves' second album, Pageant Material, which, full parent here, I bought this record and every other record sight unseen, ears unheard. The only exception is I didn't get her newest one, Deeper Well, for reasons that we will get into in just a moment, but it's not because that album sucks or anything. It's actually very good. We'll talk more about that momentarily. I originally got into Kacey Musgraves, I believe, after seeing her perform live at some award show, and I saw that she had like these cactus neon lights behind her as she was playing, dressed like a glam spaghetti western
And we all know that's Spanish fly for some southwestern feller.
person, including all the western dudes in her band, and the song was Follow Your Arrow. And I thought it was a great song, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and illegally download the fuck out of this album. And I did. And, you know, I listened to it probably nonstop for a whole weekend. And then I was like, man, this is my freaking jam. And just like, I made it a part of my weekly ritual because it was just so good. Then after that, I would buy her third album, Golden Hour. And I didn't get the Christmas album or albums, even though I got a unique chance when I was into Nashville to go pick it up and have her sign it, but I think I had to work late or that day or something. I don't remember what it was, but either way, I missed out on that. And you know, I don't really buy Christmas albums anyway, but it would have been kind of cool to meet Miss Musgraves. It'd been awesome. But oh wait, now I remember.
Sir, you're rambling.
I was worried that Kacey Musgraves would fall madly in love with me, and I was dating my future wife at the time, and at the last thing I wanted to do was break that platinum-selling artist's heart. Might have a song written about me later, and I don't want to have that awkward feeling when all I want to do is listen to Kacey Musgraves songs, you know? I would hate to be like, oh, that's right, I heard her bad. And so that's why. That's why I didn't go see her.
That was a lie.
But really, I'd never bought a Christmas album ever. Wait, no, hold on. That's not true. I do remember buying a Santa Cause, which was like a pop punk tribute Christmas album that went to like some cause. I don't remember what it was, but that was the only Christmas album I remember actually buying. And I could be forgetting something, but that was like a CD that I bought it like at Best Buy back in the day when you could do that kind of stuff.
Hi everybody, it's Fact Check Frankie here, just letting you know that that album is called A Santa Cause. It's a punk rock Christmas, and it was released November 11th, 2003 on Immortal Records, which also released Korn and 30 Seconds to Mars, and benefits the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation.
I think it was like $8 or $9. That was during my compilation days. If you are a listener, a long-time listener, you know what I'm talking about. But that's the only album that comes to mind that was Christmas themed. I mean, Christmas music just puts me to sleep, to be honest. Let's talk about me for a second, okay? We've talked about you for far too long. So back when I was a kid, you know, being all hyped up on soda or whatever, when I was like maybe 6 or 7, probably up until 13 or 14, I had these cassette holiday traditional songs that were like Christmas, you know, there was 2 of them actually. There was one that was like for adults, you know, like the boring shit like Silent Night and whatnot. And when there was like that more joyful ones with the kid stuff preferred, you know, the sleigh bells thing and all that shit.
Give me that sweet sippy and go.
And you're rocking around the Christmas tree and whatnot. That stuff would put me asleep right away. I'd pop on those foamy little headphones, the janky ones that would likely break while you fall asleep in them, and they would make like listening to that tape I would fall asleep within like 5 minutes every time. And this was like in June in Arizona, so it wasn't like Christmas vibed. It was just like I needed to go to sleep, and that just knocked me out. So,
Record scratch.
Hey everybody, it's Artie the editor here, and I just wanted to let you know I'm going to save you a whole bunch of rambling nonsense and just go straight to the point. Tyler talks about all kinds of stuff about Christmas songs that just was so boring to listen to, so what I decided was to cut that clip out and instead just lead you right into how he feels about playing Christmas music early during the year. And here it is. You're welcome.
too early in the year. Like, I don't know, think it's like ever too early, really. I think of any business trying to convince you to buy more stuff so they like stay in business is a good idea. And though you might not realize that it's meant to manipulate you into just like spending a whole shit ton of money and you just hate it because you hate the holidays and you hate good things, even though you like getting free stuff and being, you know, around people and being happy, just deal with it, you know, just deal with it. Move on. I mean, I remember working at the musical instrument retailer that we don't talk about here, and they have their own radio, and they started playing Christmas. I think Christmas music after Halloween, maybe, and there was like an uproar. Nobody was cool about it, and everyone was so pissed off, and it was like, there was like so many pissed off people. In fact, it would be like, January 6th looked like a birthday party for the one kid in the school who everyone hated. That's how serious it was. They ended up pulling the music from the rotation and didn't hit the airwaves again until after Thanksgiving. Like, one could argue is the right time, because it's always weird to like start a holiday without, first acknowledging like the 2 or 3 holidays before said holiday that you're going through. It's kind of weird to hear it, before Thanksgiving, because like there's a holiday before this Christmas, right? And we need to acknowledge it, just saying. But I just said the same thing twice. But I've also pre-gamed. We've had CBD. I've had some tequila. I've had this hot toddy. And we still got a lot of show left, so we're going to find out what happens. If we keep talking about Christmas music, I'm probably going to fall asleep right now. And all you're going to hear is 8 hours of me snoring. And it's going to be the #1 rated show of all time. But anyway, but that was a funny time to be alive. The thing that upset people, anyhow, let's get back to the subject here. I felt like I had to talk about the Christmas stuff because, this is the Christmas episode, and we will be talking about the Kacey Musgraves Christmas special, which I love. Like, we were going to watch it tonight, but the wife's like, nah, dog. And so we watched the Deeper Well World Tour concert instead, which is also on Amazon. So you can watch them both if you want. If you don't want to listen to Christmas music featuring a whole bunch of celebrity guests and stuff, then go watch the Deeper Well, which is pretty cool because she has Ben Jaffe playing the guitar player and second songwriter in a band called Honey Honey, who I used to like very much, but they don't do music anymore. And the singer went and did her own thing, and I don't know what she's doing now. But I have since stopped listening to her because she said something I disagreed with. Yeah, about drag shows. Yeah. Well, I guess it was a drag show. It was a drag show parade. But her assumptions that every drag parade or every gay parade, I think it was a gay parade. I don't remember which kind of parade it was, but she just said that it was a bunch of like dicks swinging around and stuff. And that's just assumptive and hate speech as far as I'm concerned, because that's just assuming that everyone is going to do that, and that's just crazy. It's just like you're watching the Thanksgiving parade and just assuming that every single float is going to be cool, and it's not going to. It never is. But anyway, that's a terrible comparison, but it is what it is.
A drinky, gulp, gulp.
Anyway, let's talk about this. So, she has pretty much every famous person in that Christmas special. I mean, you got Zooey Deschanel, you got James Corden, you got one of the Kardashians, or one of the Jenners probably, Lana Del Rey, Troy Savalas, I can't say his name, Eugene Levy's son. So that's how you know how old you are. If you say he's Eugene Levy's son, you're old, and I'm old. I don't know what his real name is, but he's the dude from Schitt's Creek. He's the annoying one. You know what I'm talking about. He moves around like a raptor when he's talking. I don't know his name, and I don't care. And then there's a few other people who their name. Camila Cabello, isn't it? Camila. Tomato, right? So a lot of different people are in it, and it's a fun watch. Peep it. Really, it's a great thing. Play that after you listen to this podcast at your Christmas party. Also, then watch that Kacey Musgraves special. But she does covers of all the songs that you expect, even the risque ones, like the Hawaiian song that you thought, if you really thought about what America did to the Hawaiians to make it into a state, would make you probably upset to hear that song.
Oh man, he's one of those guys.
And they also do Baby It's Cold Outside. But
Hey, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that song. I don't care what y'all say.
either way, it was a fun time. I like watching it again every Christmas, and she has like a Christmas album independent of that, which is also very good. And we will including this in our continuous playlist in a certain way this time. Instead of putting the Christmas songs in the continuous playlist, we are doing our own Christmas playlist like we did last year, with updated songs. If you listened to last week's episode, I am a broken record currently. I was just going to repost the one that I made last year, but I was like, you know what? Let's just do a whole new reimagining. And yeah, there are some of the same songs on there, but, I threw in some new stuff and I replaced other things and just did something a little different. So make it unique for you, you know what I mean? But if you've been a fan for a long time of this here podcast, actually, you might have heard that Christmas episode where we played all 30 tracks on that show, like back when we did like that little radio show thing. You will know that it was a good time, and I think we talked about like my top 6 or 7 favorite movies of Christmas and whiskeys and all that different stuff. We're gonna do a little bit something different for this show. To the cocktail talk. We've already talked about the hot toddy. Last Christmas episode was Old Dominic's Memphis toddy, so we're keeping it a toddy theme. Every year it's gonna be some kind of toddy, maybe. Maybe
Toddy on toddy on toddy, baby.
next year it'll be a super toddy 9000. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe I'll try a different tea, Maybe it won't be as spicy because it tastes really spicy. It's like, you add the whiskey in there. You're almost like drinking Fireball if it was good, you know what I'm saying? So if you're looking for the best of the year, listen to episode 149 where we went loose and talked about all of that. But let's get back to the Kacey Musgraves at hand. So
Finally.
I thought she was awesome, when I was talking about, I have supported her music. I've supported her direction. The only exception I would have to say is her album Star Crossed. Since we keep it 100 here, I'm going to tell you something about that. In preparing for this episode, I did listen to all of her albums again, and this one is just the weakest link for me. And I know this is just kind of bizarre because she had the Golden Hour that came out previously about how, how she was so happy with being married or getting married to one of her guitar players, whom we will not mention because he's Casey less bus fucked up. I couldn't think of anything clever, sorry. But I think that that's his name, by the way. But I think that the Star Cross was like, the divorce record, and it was a very conceptual album. He came with a video thing. It was like a whole short movie. It was all like very experimental sounding, very like disco-y, and a lot of vocal effects that just really turned me off from the album. There's only a couple of songs from there that I really liked, like Justified, and really that's it. The other things that are okay, but some of them just downright atrocious, and this is hard for me to say because all of her songs on all of her other previous albums are the shit. I've enjoyed every single song, like favorite artist level favorite songs. So it kind of bums me out that I have a problem with this album.
Drinky, drinky. Gulp, gulp.
It's like she took her tried and true formula and like really overdid it. And this album also came out during the COVID times, so I had to drive to the record store and had contactless curbside pickup, which was crazy. It was cool though. You like text the owner and he just came out with the album. And the Star Cross came out in 3 different colors initially, and pre-ordered it, you could actually pick the color. And I think I picked yellow, but ended up getting red. Either way, the guy reached out to me later that day and was like, "Hey man, I'm so sorry you got the wrong color. I'll come on back and we'll just switch it out for the right one." And I was like, "Dude, I don't see color. I don't care." But he did not get that joke, which is understandable because it was Chattanooga, and we've talked about that in great lengths, and we're not going to talk about it now. It is the Christmas episode, baby. So,
Unjingle these bells, bitch.
the results were the same. This album just soured me. And, Casey's done a whole bunch of other stuff since then, like a lot of collaborations and duets, all of which have been like #1 or even like every type of station you can think of. She's basically like the Tinkerbell of music. If you want something to be good, you just add a little Kacey Musgraves and your shit will fly off the shelves, right? So truthfully, when she announced her latest album, Deeper Well, I was like apprehensive about like buying it straight off without hearing it. Like I've had it so many times before, I've every single album I've just bought it without even listening to it. So especially when the trailer had come out for this, yes, there was a trailer for this album, and it had Musgrave singing "My Saturn Has Returned," and I was like, oh gosh, here we go. And I'm still unsure of what that meant, and I still don't. I have no idea, but I thought we were getting a space concept album with David Bowie influences, and I was like, no, thanks. But thanks to streaming services, I was able to download and listen to the album one day on a long drive and realize she was right back to the roots of it all. Guitar first, with heartfelt, not repetitive lyrics, and like no cringe lyrics, actually. That's the big one. I think Starcross had a lot of cringe lyrics, I was like, yeeks. But enough of that. I have what Kacey has to say about it herself. And full disclosure, I have already looked this up and have written it down, but I'm gonna make it look like I'm looking at it in real time because, reality versus what's actually happening can be two different things, right? Kacey Musgraves described her album Star-Crossed as a deeply personal and cinematic exploration of heartbreak and healing. In interviews, she called it a modern tragedy. Let's just say tragedy. Fuck it, right? No. So modern tragedy. Let's just not do the voice. Obviously, we were good earlier, but I can't handle it now. Reflecting the dissolution of her marriage to Clowntown Kelly and the emotional journey that followed. The album, released in 2021, is divided into 3 acts inspired by the structure of Greek tragedies, and blends elements of pop, folk, and country with experimental production, aka something that sucks. Musgraves explained that Star-Crossed was a way to process and express the complexities of love, loss, and self-discovery. She aimed to present the album as a real-time snapshot of her experiences, acknowledging the pain, but also embracing the growth that came with it. She said it's about the metamorphosis and how I got to this point in my life. Sorry, let me say it in Kacey's voice. It's about this metamorphosis and how I got to this point in my life. Obviously, Casey doesn't sound like that. But I always do like different voices what you expect, because I don't want to offend anyone. So, yeah, so a concept album, and the concept was how not to sound like Kacey Musgraves anymore. Rimshot, all that other stuff right here. I think this is a good part to leave off and go ahead and hit you with one of our sponsors. And when we get back, we'll talk about Elijah Craig, and then blend back into the talk of Kacey Musgraves, and then get into our holiday celebration part of the show. See you in just a minute.
Wiki.
Well, guess what, kids? It's called mistletoe. So what it is these birds take a shit on a leaf, and then some kind of fungus grows, and then it creates this thing, and then you hang that thing up, and then anyone who's under it has to kiss you. It's like a rule. And if you have a problem with that, then you have a problem with tradition. And if you got a problem with tradition, then you must be progressive. And we don't like those types of folks here. So, if you really want a kiss from your honey bunny, turn to mistletoe. It'll do it for you. And if you find somebody standing under the mistletoe that you don't want to kiss and you accidentally do it, you gotta kiss them. It's part of the rules. And if they happen to be your mother or father or whatever, you gotta do it. And if you want to make a few extra bucks, you gotta record it. Now, back to the show. Wicked. So that would have been a perfect time for me to go get some more to drink because we have finished the toddy and now we're on to the hard stuff, aka water. But I just didn't feel a need to. Yeah, so we're just gonna stay at the same level because that mix of whiskey that's in that infinity bottle is varying proofs from 80 to, I think 120 something. So it is hitting me all of a sudden. And because I've been sick for the last few days, I haven't actually been drinking much. So again, it's hitting me harder. And in the last week, I haven't really been drinking much. So it's been interesting to say the least. And now I'm already feeling it knocking me out. And I know we got a whole more show to go. So Elijah Craig is often associated with the creation of bourbon whiskey, although the specifics are debated. According to legend, Craig accidentally discovered bourbon by aging his distilled spirits in charred oak barrels, which gave the whiskey its distinct flavor and amber color. Whether this story is true or not, he is credited with popularizing or refining the process. But basically, this is one of those whiskeys where people, who hate when there's a fake story that tricks them into buying a bottle, only to find out that the one of the bigger ones out there has been doing this the whole time. And no one says anything because, hypocrisy runs deep, like a deeper well. Right, Casey? So basically, the whiskey is named after Elijah Craig. He has nothing to do with the whiskey itself. It would be like Ezra Brooks, for example, Brooks is a fake person completely. Whereas Elijah Craig was a person, a minister, they say, who was also a distiller and again created whiskey, I guess, but or American bourbon, but aging it and turning it into bourbon eventually, whatever hype sauce, it's just marketing. So, though, hold up. Other countries have been doing this for much longer. So, did he really come up with the idea? No. Just like Natalie Imbruglia, who covered the song Torn so well you don't even care that there's an original version of the song. It's the same thing about this. It's like, do we really think Elijah Craig created bourbon? No. No, he's not the first person to age shit in charred oak barrels. He's just not. Maybe the first American. Maybe. I mean, all that stuff's debatable. None of it's true. If you think about it, if they don't mention anything about a black person, then likely it is not a true story. But at the end of the day, none of these stories matter. It's all meant to sell you on whiskey that tastes similar to something else. And with Heaven Hill using only 2 mash bills for the longest time, it was like, oh, what type of version of this whiskey am I gonna taste today? Is it the Elijah Craig I'm getting, or the edgier Evan Williams? I mean, they each taste distinctively different. They do. I'm not saying that they don't. I think Elijah Craig has more of that sugar cookie flavor, where you get with the Evan Williams, it's more of that bourbon, that cherry flavors with a little bit of caramel and all that shit. But Elijah Craig is a good product, especially the rye. Okay, the barrel proof is amazing. We all know this, and if you don't know this, you know this now. But if you want to buy it, but if you can't get a hold of it, a Jack Daniel's single barrel proof is a nice substitute and is likely at your store right now. So I really wanted to buy another Elijah Craig barrel proof for this show, but since I live in a control state now, it's a lot harder to get one-offs like that. And sure, there might be a location in New Hampshire that has it, but I did not look it up, and I don't want to drive too far, you know what I mean? There are a couple of liquor stores within a reasonable distance, and none of them had it. And so I was like, it is what it is. I could just go to Maine. I could go to Massachusetts and just find it, no problem. I remember seeing the barrel proof, I think for $70 in Mass. So, and that was last year. So I imagine it's still there. And that was the same place that had all kinds of shit that I was like, oh, damn. So one day I will go back to that liquor store. It's down the street from my brother-in-law's house, and they got a lot of good shit there. And, I will make peace with the fact that I have to pay tax because it's a huge selection. Like I even saw, again, we're talking about Davidson Reserve, Tennessee whiskey. They had a single barrel pick there, and that blew my fucking mind. I'm like, it's Massachusetts. You people don't even know what Tennessee is. And that just like, oh my gosh. So I was going to buy that bottle, but I bought something else. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I think it might have been Fused Spirits. It could have been that one. Yeah, it was, definitely, yes. It was right next to a Larceny barrel proof, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this Fused Spirits because I haven't had it before. And I do not regret it. Very good whiskey. Shout out Fused Spirits.
Fact check Frank here to tell you that Heaven Hill now owns Fused Spirits, this hypocrite.
But again, let's just move on. I would easily take the Jack Daniels over that barrel proof Elijah Craig simply because I like my whiskeys to taste like whiskey. But maybe I'm the wrong person to listen to. But either way, we've never gonna tell you what to do, what to buy and what not to buy here on the Bourbon Groove. That's not our style, and no. And I could easily just edit out what I just said there and just redo it, but no. It's a very special Christmas episode, and we gotta keep it 100.
He edited it out, just so you know.
So, but what is our style? It's Kacey Musgraves. Yeah. I haven't seen a transition that smooth since Caitlyn Jenner. I think that's all I gotta say about the Musgraves right there. Boom. Since last year's Christmas episode, we talked about my favorite albums and bourbons. This year, we're going to rank all the Kacey Musgraves records. Number 1 would be, for me, Golden Hour. Number 2, Pageant Material. Number 3, Same Trailer, Different Park, her debut album. And number 4 would be Deeper Well. And number 5, of course, is Star Crossed. So not only is her music awesome, but Kacey appears to be a cool person as well. Like, she comes up like, a down-to-earth, though she's Spacey Kacey. Like that time I mentioned where she was signing the Christmas album in Nashville. I mean, you could actually just go to Broadway and accidentally run into her. I mean, she's done that a couple of times, just giving folks a heads up. And if you were in town, you could just randomly see her. That was back when like Instagram didn't control when you saw posts. That was pretty sweet. So now you'd be like, oh shit, Kacey Musgraves is hanging out at the Tootsies 4 days ago. Yeah. So let's pause for a moment and just say, fuck you, Instagram. I don't know where you thought that it made sense.
And I know you're listening.
I want to see all my friends' posts and just know what they're up to, in real time. I don't want to know 5 days later. Like, it is such a pain in the ass, especially when, brands are trying to sell you something, and they go, we got this limited sale, only 12 hours, and then I see that shit 3 weeks later. No, just post it when it gets released. I don't know why this is a thing, you know what I mean? But, everything goes back to the dollar, but again, fuck you, Instagram. Okay, Now, back to the show. I think she even ran an ice cream truck at some point, just like, hey, can I get an ice cream? And oh my, Phil Hartman, it's Kacey Musgraves. Have all my babies if you consent to such things, or something like that. I can't be sure. I wasn't there, so that's just what I assume people said. She also seems to be a fiercely independent person and likes to control her own narrative, and I appreciate that. She seems to talk about her personal life if and when she wants to, which is unique because oftentimes artists, especially female ones, get pushed into a certain box and then people speak for them, or all they do is a marketing ploy, or the media seems to make up their own little thing, and eventually the person fizzles out and disappears, and then people are like, I wonder whatever happened to her. Because, women are the enemy, according to every dude in the last, since 2016, right? And that's all we're going to say about that. But I know that I just did what I said where people talk for somebody, but I think that Kacey Musgraves is pretty awesome, and I appreciate what she has done for her cause and her music and everything. She just seems like a decent person that doesn't give a shit if it upsets other people in her genre. She's going to say what she says and mean what she means. And so shout out, Kacey. Shout out. So let's talk about holiday cocktails before you forget that this is supposed to be a Christmas episode. So here are my 3 favorites and how to make them. Well, in the ingredients at least. I'm unsure of where I found this recipe, but it's fucking amazing. This is called Toasted Vanilla Bean and Bourbon Brulee. It is 2 ounces of bourbon, ½ ounce of vanilla bean syrup, which is simple syrup infused with vanilla bean, 2 dashes of aromatic bitters, and no, I'm not much of a rimmer. Well, not with my drinks at least. But you can rim the glass with caramelized sugar. Garnish with a vanilla bean. And if that's too Kentucky bourbon flavored for you, let's do some cranberry with the Blizzard. Yeah, this is 2 1/4 ounce of bourbon, 1½ ounces of unsweetened cranberry juice, ½ ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, 1 ounce of simple syrup, and lemon slices and cranberries to garnish if you're a fancy bitch. You can find full instructions on all that at thespeckedpalate.com. I'm a huge fan of cranberry and bourbon, and I make my own, probably mentioned this 1,000 times, using simple syrup made from leftover cranberry sauce, orange juice, and Mexican vanilla, and with a little bit of spices. But when I don't want to go through all of that trouble, I like to rely on good old Woodford Reserve and Williams-Sonoma. So they partnered with each other a few years ago, and they've been doing these cocktail mixes ever since. And they came out with this cocktail mixer one year, I think it was a couple years ago, that was heavy on the cranberry and absolutely amazing. Like, I bought 3 bottles of it. It was that good. So our last holiday cocktail to mention is a hot cocoa cocktail. I mean, do you even holiday season if you don't drink hot cocoa? So this is 10 to 12 ounces of hot cocoa, 2 ounces of oaky bourbon. The person that came up with this recommends Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, a dash of ground cinnamon, dash of cayenne, a bar spoon of smoky scotch or mezcal, garnish with 1 to 2 ounces of smoked whipped cream, a dash of cinnamon, and chocolate drizzle. Smoked whipped cream. Though that sounds okay, it also sounds terrible, and I think you don't have to do that. Yeah. So instead, how about you just toast some marshmallows and just, salt bay that shit right on top. But it's also important to note that I don't like cocktails very much, so I like my whiskey just in a glass, no ice, just what it is. I was talking to a lady about this recently, and I was sharing how my wife had made a special fruity cocktail. I'm going to share this with you too, folks, with one of my favorite ass whiskeys. So it wasn't the Evan Williams Bottled and Bond that we often use for our wild cocktails, because I don't want to use a whiskey that I like, but I want to have a whiskey flavor, right? But not nothing too crazy. Whereas she used my Whiskey Del Bach Ode to Isla whiskey, which is a super mesquite single malt, and that made it taste like funky ass shit, because you got that mesquite smoke, and it was like this fruity fruit cocktail that was usually reserved for rum or something, and it was not good, but I still drank it. It's just like in one pull, of course, because I'm not wasting that whiskey. It's a $90 bottle, folks. And maybe you're all like, oh, that ain't shit, because I spend $250 for my Blantons. Well, that's all we're going to say about that. You know what I mean? I just remembered the fruit flavor of it and tasted like maybe somebody burned down a mesquite tree in front of the house of somebody who grew bananas. I don't know. Now let's get back to this Elijah Craig talk, shall we? Fun fact. Elijah Craig released their first barrel proof back in 2013, and it's basically been the biggest and highly sought after expression in the Heaven Hill catalog. Well, at least consistent release that isn't super hard to find or overpriced. For example, I came across a Heaven Hill 17 year, and it was tagged at $600. What? Barrel proof has also been quite divisive in the bourbon snob world. Sorry, community. Haters not happy with age statements and proof points going down. These were the same folks who claimed batch C923 was the best release ever, and well, it was the oldest. So that's how you sniff out a snob. But I don't want to get into all that up and down, left and right, smacking ass type stuff. We here at the day. I'm just trying to stay merry, dang it. You know, 'tis the season, right? But to wrap up that discussion, I guess it's like when you buy a 12-pack of cola now, it's like $8 or $9 when, say, whatever years ago you could get the same stuff for $2.50. Or maybe it's just because it's the cheapest, oldest barrel proof you can get on the market. But that, that's folks, they turn their nose up to whatever. Give them a reason and they'll complain about it. Either way,
Sippy, sippy, drippy, drippy.
it's just what it is. And they'll find 4 other things to bitch about as well, You go, it's not 15 years this year. Oh, hey, the bottle is not shaped like every other bottle. Oh, hey, they spelled Craig wrong. It's like people will just find something. It's just because they want to sound like they're in the know. They want to sound like they're an expert. When in fact, we drink whiskey and we like it. Okay, this shouldn't be a whole thing. You know what I mean? It's cool because some of these whiskeys can inspire things. Like we wouldn't have a show if it didn't inspire something, right? But we don't have to also be a fucking dick about it, or make yourself sound more important than somebody else. No one should feel that way, and I have felt that way. Believe me, and it wasn't with whiskey, though. I feel like that could have possibly happened at some point, but at that same coffee roaster, they had just blended some new blend, and she was like, "What do you taste?" And I was like, "Oh, I taste cherries and this," and she looked at me like, "Oh," which is code for you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, bro. And so no one should be made to feel that way, because at the end of the day, we're just drinking a product that was made by some people. It's not some heavenly thing that needs to be held to such a higher standard. It doesn't, It just doesn't. So I don't know. I don't claim to know. Everyone has their reasons. So to those folks, find peace or realize your life is pretty damn sweet if this is what you got your gears grinding. You know what I'm saying? And, this is the perfect point to stop and do America's favorite podcast segment. How's that sound? 50 States of Whiskey, baby. Play that theme song. 50 States of Whiskey theme song. That's right, baby. We are back with 50 States of Whiskey. It's been a couple of weeks, right? Or at least a week. I don't remember if we did one. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did one for the camp episode. So, yes, it's been a week. Now we're back at it. Christmas episode, the 150th episode. We got to be doing 50 States of Whiskey. Hell, it's probably the only reason why anyone listens. I want to tell you about a special one. So, when the elves working mostly on toys for the better part of their year, and a master distiller who doesn't actually distill it in Santa Claus, North Pole Spirited Spirits is a sourced-only brand and regulated to just the workers of Santa's workshop. So they were out. So we had to go just a little south because we can't do another sourced whiskey. You know what I'm saying? So we went to the town of North Pole in Alaska and Arctic Harvest AK Grown Spirits. Getting off the ground in 2017, making their own stuff from grain grown under the midnight sun. As we all know at this point, that Alaska has a wild time with light to night ratios that are not standard for, say, other American folks. Their shot and intense growing season produce some of the very fascinating flavors when it comes to terroir of it all, or terroir. Starting off with their Unaged Solstice Shine, they also put down their moonlit winter malt whiskey and then dabbed in sourced light whiskey finished in some barrels. They also make vodka and a honey-infused Solstice Shine and just released their 5th batch of their Raven Rye, which is 3 years old. All in all, with harvesting the grain actually grown in Alaska instead of just sourcing it, probably easier and cheaper, and the dedication to telling the story of how they do it. I mean, if you go to their website, they are very, very detailed and all that. So we are going to say that Arctic Harvest AK Grown Spirits is authentically Alaska, and they are proud of it. Now, back to that whole show.
50 States of Whiskey theme song.
Hi, y'all. It's Husky Slim dropping by to wish y'all a happy holidays from my trailer park to yours. Make sure the nog is spiked and agree your wife is always right. Failure to do either will lead to a black eye or two. Take care. Thanks, Husky. We miss you, pal. My present is in the mail, so look out for it. Hopefully that 50 States of Whiskey made sense. It seemed like it was a whole bunch of blah, 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 blah. But we're not going to go back and re-record it because I have shit to do. And, I got a family. And hopefully it all makes sense. Basically, go check out these Arctic Harvest folks. It sounds like a really cool idea. And I would love to get my hands on some of that good shit. So what is Elijah Craig up to these days? I don't know, nor do I care. I mean, like I said, we're in a control state. I don't know what's going on. I'm not looking it up. There are plenty of other options out there for me. My liquor cabinet is currently full. I went to the liquor store today thinking that I was going to grab an Elijah Craig just so I would have something that's reminiscent to it. And I was like, no. And then I walked over to the tequila and I picked up the Código Reposado, which I have not had yet. And I've been super excited to try. It's kind of hard to find here. And magically, it's just available now. But I was thinking about grabbing Elijah Craig. I was looking at the whiskeys. One of the workers there says, "Do you need help or are you just browsing?" And I said, "Nah, just, trying to make peace with spending money on shit I don't need." And then she's like, ah. And then I go grab the tequila. I was like, oh, you went from bourbon to tequila? And I'm like, I don't discriminate. Like, it's okay to like both. And the Reposado is more for bourbon drinkers anyway. Hello. But then I said to her, listen, let me explain to you something. And then I did a frame of the wall of whiskey behind us. And I said, I know this is going to sound like I'm an alcoholic, but I've had pretty much everything on this wall. So I wanted to do something different, and I've never had this Reposado before. And she's like, oh. See, that's the thing with New England. Sometimes you got to, explain yourself, because for some reason people won't let shit go. However, a lot of the times they just ignore the shit out of you completely. Like, you don't make eye contact. You say, hey, how's it going? Nothing. Or you'll walk by them and say, hey, nice shoes, bro. Where'd you get them? Nothing. Or you'll, tase them and then pepper spray them and then poop on their face and then say, how you like me now? And they get up and they walk away without saying anything. It's very strange living in New England, especially in a small town, because they're all a bunch of wackadoos. But that's my opinion. So that's what's going on with Elijah Craig. And that's the short and sweet, because I'm sure they've come out with more barrel proofs, and I'm sure they're delicious, but I'm not hunting for them. I am hunting for the next best thing for me. Yeah, and I got a few things on order right now because, again, I now live in a state that I can have it shipped to. And, there are local distilleries here that are okay, but I'm looking for something else. I've had all that stuff already, so that's what I'm doing, And, again, go take a look at that Kacey Musgraves Christmas special. It's very good. Also check out her new album, Deeper Well. She also released a longer version, which I think has 8 or 9 more songs on it. I think it's called Deepest Well, or the Super Deep Well, or, it puts lotion on the skin and puts it in the basket. Something like that well. I don't remember what it is, but it's out, or it's pre-order, something like that. Either way, check it out, CaceyMusgraves.com. But that's what's going on. So what are we doing for Christmas? I'm glad you asked. So Christmas Eve, we're hosting a party at our house, and we're going to have some family over and just chillax, The wife's thinking about making some beef Wellington. We might just make some popcorn, whatever's easiest. just hang out, and then the next day, or today, if you will, we will be going to the in-laws' house to celebrate Christmas proper. We'll have the Secret Santa, all that good stuff that, kids like to do these days, and just have a good time. My kid, who's 5 years old, he's super excited about Christmas. I think I might have mentioned this in last week's episode, but we ended up having 2 trees because of us traveling, and so he's expecting 2 times the presents, and so it's an expectation that I will do my best to match, but no guarantees. And he's basically all taken care of at this point. When it comes to presents, it's like our first Christmas in New England, and there's snow on the ground right now. We live near a forest. It's very beautiful to be alive here, and any kind of depressions that anyone feels kind of just goes away when you realize that you're surrounded by such beauty. And the fact that Christmas is awesome. Now, I know that there are other people might look at it differently because they all associate with other things. Listen, if you want some truth bombs, if you want some super truth bomb stuff, on Tuesday when I was like super sick and I was like having a hard time like functioning, I was talking to an army vet, a vet. I didn't ask him if he was in the army or not, but he was a soldier, and he was talking about how he had extreme PTSD. And I said, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, I can only imagine. I used to work at a hospital, and he's like, you are allowed to have PTSD too, and people don't talk about it, but you guys can have PTSD too. And it was like the first time that I felt like somebody saw me, and I nearly cried. And like he could sense it. And he's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry. Like, we don't have to talk about it. I'm like, no, it's okay, it's fine. It was good. It's a good thing. And he's like, okay. And he took off because we don't want to both have flashbacks or whatever the hell it is. But it was a crazy feeling. And I was like, holy shit. Because, you think about working at a hospital during COVID, with the people who are there only to help people all day long, being mistreated, being overworked, dying, getting sick, quitting, leaving the profession completely because it's too much or whatever. It was a whole lot to take in, and especially someone like me who I feel like I'm very emotional, very empathetic of everyone, and I don't want to come off as less than genuine, so I always am 100% into it because, they're saving lives all fucking day long. So I felt so bad about that whole situation, and there was a time where the wife was upset because we weren't going out as much during COVID, and she thought it was just because I was antisocial. I didn't want to go out, and like the honest truth of it all was, I respected the people that I worked with so much that I couldn't go out and do it because I didn't want to get sick. If I were to get sick because I chose to go eat out some food or something, and then ended up passing it along to the entire organization, because to give you an understanding, I was centrally located. I talked to people in every single department every single day. So if I had gotten sick and not known it and passed it off to all of those people, I could have easily 100% brought the whole hospital down. And it was knowing that gave me such anxiety to do anything. Like like I've said before in the show, my kid didn't go to a grocery store for like, what, 2.5 years? So it was a crazy time. And when somebody said that to me, it made me feel like it was okay. When somebody who has dealt with their own type of PTSD says that, it's okay to have it, it hit me that I have it. And am I going to do anything about it? No, because knowing is only half the battle, and the other half of the battle is too much work. So I'm just going to go ahead and get me some whiskey. I'm gonna have a great Christmas with my family, or my wife's family at least, who is my family by proxy, and watch the joy on my kid when he opens up his presents this year. And we're going to have a freaking Merry Christmas. We're going to have a freaking happy holiday. And since they're kind of Jewish too, we're also going to do Hanukkah as well. And
Freaking.
it's just going to be a good old time. And whenever you're listening to Christmas music in April and you're like, this shit is way too early, go fuck yourself, because there is a lot more shit that's much more important out there then whether or not you're listening to Christmas music right now, stop being a bitch. That's all I got to say about that. And I know this has completely changed the vibe of what I meant to talk about, but I think it has to be said. I'm still sick. I'm a little tipsy. I'm definitely a little high. So I don't want to be like, and just be all happy bappity bappity when it's not true. But I'm going to just move on before I say anything else that's stupid.
I've been waiting for that since episode 1, baby.
And just be good. And then at this very moment, at the very end of the show, where I realized I did not actually talk about the song at all, I feel like we need to do another remix just to cover that. But Are You Sure by Kacey Musgraves and Willie Nelson is a freaking awesome song. One of the best songs. And you should give it a listen sometime. If I still have access to the continuous playlist, I will add it on there along with some other Kacey Musgraves tracks. And then also go down to the show notes for both that curated playlist and then also the Christmas playlist, which I've recreated. I just left Spotify, so I don't know if I can do anything with this, with the track list or anything now, but I know that when I did pay for it, I could. So we'll see. I don't know if it's not, then it is what it is, but we'll still have that Christmas forever, that Christmas playlist. But anyway, I need to go because my throat's really, really dry from being sick. I'm all out of water. I'm all out of hot toddy. I'm all out of a reason to not drink anymore. So I got to go drink some more stuff and then go to bed and do it all over again. So hopefully you all have a great, safe, and wonderful Merry Christmas. I hope you get everything you want. And if you don't get everything you want, you get everything you need. And I hope you find joy in whatever this day brings. And any bad things that have happened to you, any kind of traumas, anything that is coming towards you right now, like you're afraid to face or it's coming, I hope that you find the peace and strength to move forward and conquer whatever life brings you. Thank you so much for listening to the Bourbon Groove, the Christmas edition, episode 150. We couldn't be here without you, so thank you so very much. And again, you're the best present anyone can ask for Christmas. And thank you so, so, so much for being you and being here. All right. Take care, everyone.
The Bourbon Groove is a foreign Star Works production. Recorded at It Might Just Be a Garage Studios.